Our presentation is on America's response to Al Qaeda and 9/11, and our group is Henry Kupiec, Dylan Bissell, and Philip Stracke.
Group 4.
Okay, so during the Soviet-Afghan War, Osama bin Laden recruited Islamic people throughout the globe to join Al-Qaeda, a group working to protect Islamics from outside threats such as the Soviets. After the war, Al-Qaeda slowly turned increasingly militant, influenced by violent movements and organizations such as the Islamic Jihad movement in Egypt. Ultimately, this violence boiled into the September 2001 attacks on the United States. Terrorists affiliated with Al-Qaeda hijacked 4 airliners flying planes into the World Trade Center and Pentagon. They attempted to fly one into the White House, which was unsuccessful. And this was a symbolic attack on the political and economic hubs of America.
America's response to this was following the development of Al-Qaeda, boiling into the September 11th attack on the nation. Although America continued to battle foreign threats by imposing democratic ideals and a stronger global economy onto the rest of the world, American foreign policy was permanently changed as America followed the Bush Doctrine through aggressive warring with nations harboring terrorists such as Afghanistan and allegedly Iraq, Iran, and North Korea as well, as America established increased protocols to prevent surprise attacks from foreign nations.
So one major continuity was that America continued to spread democratic ideals and promote global economic health to fight terror. So the problem was that mirroring World War II and the Cold War, Bush considered the wars following 9/11 as fights against totalitarian powers with corrupt values and no respect for human dignity. In order to fight these totalitarian powers, Bush tried to impose American democratic values and increase economic health across the globe by replacing the governments and economic systems of foreign nations who harbor terrorists. This resembles the goals of the 14 points after World War II and the IMF and World Bank during the Cold War. The American foreign policy of spreading democratic ideals and promoting the health of the global economy remains a strong continuity in American foreign policy, not only because it is the right thing to do, but also because it is highly effective in promoting world peace. So an example of what was just described was the anti-Taliban Northern Alliance, which was established by President Bush and attempted to chase out the Taliban who were protecting Osama bin Laden and therefore considered a terrorist country. They supported the anti-Taliban Northern Alliance supported a new Afghan government which was friendly to the United States and better reflected American values, as depicted by their decisions to allow women to go to school and serve in parliament. And overall, the work of the anti-Taliban Northern Alliance illustrates how Bush and the US replaced terrorist governments with new governments better reflecting democratic ideals and supported these governments politically and economically, reflecting a continued strategy throughout American history.
One major change, however, as a result of the rise of terror was the Bush Doctrine. This established a more aggressive approach, and it stated that if you were not with America, you were with the terrorists, and that they would not discriminate between the terrorists and the countries that harbored them, and they would invade them and take them out at any cost. It forced our allies and other countries to take positions on the war on terrorism, and it was a large difference. It was seen as a large difference than what he said in his inaugural address, which was moderate and following the lines of previous presidents such as Eisenhower with support for American interests and our allies. However, after 9/11, these became he stated a much stronger stance against terrorism, and a month later, in October, he invaded Afghanistan and went after Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. Another change in the U.S. foreign policy came when Bush declared Iraq, Iran, and North Korea as all axes of evil who were going against human dignity. By invading Iraq, it was promised that it would be a quick and inexpensive war only costing $60 billion. However, more than 3,000 Americans were killed and over $200 billion spent. The motivation for going into Iraq is, as Bush stated, was that they had weapons of mass destruction that they were unwilling to give up, and they were also linked to the 9/11 attacks along with their dictator, Saddam Hussein. Both allegations were later proven to be false, but it didn't matter because the US had already ousted Saddam Hussein, leading to chaos in Iraq.
Another large change with American foreign policy was the increased use of preemptive attacks. Rather than passively waiting for a retaliatory attack, the Bush Doctrine declared that the US would actively invade countries harboring terrorists before they attacked the United States. With this in mind, the United States declared North Korea, Iraq, and Iran all terrorist countries, therefore increasing military surveillance of and defense against terrorist activities in those areas. This largely allowed the United States to prevent surprise attacks such as the 9/11 attack. Further, the new policies allowed the United States to take increased measures to prevent potential threats, such as killing all of bin Laden's closest associates who could potentially take over the operation following bin Laden's assassination.
Thank you, Mr. Zucker, for a great year. This is the project. Let's go, baby. Henry, anything to say?
Thank you for a great year.
All right. See ya.